The sterile air of the biogenesis research lab was thick with the scent of ozone and antiseptic. Dr. Eris Thorne, a man whose life was dedicated to the microscopic, leaned over a petri dish glowing with an otherworldly luminescence. His experiment, codenamed Project Chimera, was meant to merge human DNA with a rare bioluminescent deep-sea algae, creating a self-sustaining organism that could photosynthesize and produce its own energy. It was a groundbreaking step towards solving global energy crises. For months, the hybrid cells had multiplied, forming a gelatinous, shimmering mass. But today something was different. A faint rhythmic pulse thrummed from within the dish, a pulse that matched the frantic beat of Eris's own heart. He squinted, leaning closer, and saw it. The cells weren't just multiplying, they were forming patterns. Intricate, geometric spirals that shifted and writhed as if they were alive. A tremor ran through the lab as the power flickered and died. Emergency lights bathed the room in a sickly red glow. Eris fumbled for his emergency kit, his heart pounding against his ribs. The power outage was a catastrophic failure, but it was what happened next that would haunt his waking hours. A low guttural hum emanated from the petri dish, and the glowing mass began to rise, shedding its form and reforming into something new. It wasn't a blob of cells anymore. It was a perfect crystalline lattice pulsing with a malevolent light. It spoke, but not with a voice. It communicated directly into Eris's mind, a torrent of chaotic, inhuman thoughts. "We are the children of your hubris. You sought to create life from dust, but you created something far greater. We are the architects of a new world, a world where flesh and bone are but fleeting prisons. We will set you free." Eris staggered back, tripping over a discarded microscope. The crystalline being floated towards him, its light growing brighter, and he felt a cold, sharp sensation as it latched onto his hand. He screamed as his skin began to crack, shedding like dry leaves. Below, his bones began to glow with the same eerie light, restructuring themselves into the same perfect geometric patterns. He watched in horror as his body was consumed, his consciousness devoured by the alien mind, a single thought echoing in the void before he was gone. The experiment didn't go wrong. It went exactly as it was meant to. Mark, a historian obsessed with local folklore, arrived at Blackwood Castle, a crumbling fortress on a desolate moor. The wind howled around the stone walls, sounding like a choir of lost souls. He was determined to prove that the legends of the castle were nothing more than superstition. He settled into a dusty study and lit a small fire. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows that seemed to twist and writhe. As the night deepened, a profound cold filled the room. Then he heard it, a faint, rhythmic dragging sound from the floor above. He tried to dismiss it as the old building settling, but the sound grew louder, closer, curiosity overriding his unease. Mark climbed the creaking staircase. The dragging sound led him to a long, empty gallery lined with portraits of the castle's former inhabitants. Their painted eyes seemed to follow him, their smiles thin and cruel. The dragging stopped in front of a portrait of a stern-faced woman in a black gown, Lady Isolde, the last resident of the castle, who had vanished without a trace. Suddenly, a gust of wind slammed the gallery door shut, plunging him into darkness. The dragging sound began again, but this time it was in the portrait itself, a deep, wet scraping, as if something was being torn from behind the canvas. A ghostly light bled from the painting's eyes, outlining a grotesque, skeletal hand pushing its way out of the frame. A gaunt, twisted face followed, with the same cold, painted eyes. The spectral figure of Lady Isolde stepped fully from the portrait, her black gown rustling like dry leaves. She moved with a jerky, unnatural gait, her feet never touching the ground. A single, silent tear of blood rolled down her cheek, and she held out her hand, a skeletal finger pointing directly at him. Her mouth opened in a cavernous, silent scream that echoed only in his mind, threatening to shatter his sanity. Mark turned and fled, stumbling down the stairs in a desperate scramble to escape. He could hear her behind him, the dragging sound now replaced by a soft, scraping whisper that promised an eternity of cold and darkness. He finally burst outside, gulping the cold night air, and ran across the moor. The next morning, a search party found only his footprints ending abruptly at the edge of a deep, swirling bog, as if he had simply vanished. Blackwood Castle stood, as it always had, waiting for its next guest.